Hi everyone, I'm Claire Zhao from GSV Ventures.
And I'm Kevin Zhang from GSV Ventures. We are thrilled to be sitting down with NBA champion and Asian American icon, Jeremy Lin.
It's been close to a decade since Jeremy captured the attention of the world through his epic run with the New York Knicks in 2012, known as Linsanity. Since then, he's gone on to prove himself as a force, not only on the basketball court, but also in philanthropy, using his voice to combat anti-Asian racism and support overlooked nonprofits through the Jeremy Lin Foundation. Jeremy's story is a testament to the power of opportunity and resilience.
Thanks, Jeremy, for coming today. It's really great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
This is the ASU+GSV Summit. We're in our 12th year. Our North Star is that all people, capital ALL, have equal access to the future. And we're so happy that you're helping us take part in this really important mission. We'd love to hear you talk about your passion for education and where your passion for helping people reach their potential comes from.
I feel like for me, it's probably just instilled at a young age. One of the questions everyone asks me is like, oh, how did you handle basketball and education at the same time? And really, it's just a lot of it comes from my parents. They were just like, you can't play basketball unless you have straight A's. You can't go to the court until you finish your homework. And so there's always like at least a priority or an emphasis, and kind of one of those things where like I was passionate about basketball, but not as much about education. But my parents put me in a position where I had to learn how to time manage accordingly. And I think that was really helpful. And then I started to see that no matter what happens, education is just so valuable. I had high school teammates who were good enough to play, recruited to go play in college, and then couldn't make it into that college because their grades weren't good enough. And so they actually never even got to see their basketball potential go through. And that's just one aspect of it. But in general, education is just one of the cornerstones for somebody when you're talking about the opportunities they can have down the road. And I think that's why, for me, I've realized even as an athlete, man, education is a backbone.
For a lot of immigrant children, in order to fit in the U.S., you have to kind of escape your heritage. I think we can all three relate to maybe hiding our lunchbox or really kind of tucking away our Asian identity, or even making ourselves the butt of the jokes a lot of times. And so for you, how has your own relationship with that Asian American identity evolved over time with your parents or even just the larger community you're in?
I mean, that's a great question. I think, growing up, it was like annoying. Like I would be annoyed sometimes, like, oh, why does why do I get made fun of this, or it smells a certain way, or and then like I remember like, so we had this national tournament and I was walking in the opening ceremony. I always hated the opening ceremonies because they announce each team, you stand up, you have to walk through everybody. And like, I'll never forget this one in Orlando, but like I was walking down and all the teams were lined up. I mean, hundreds of teams for this huge tournament. And like every few feet, they're just like, there's Yao Ming. Look at that Yao Ming. Or look at that dude, look at that Chinese dude. And I remember like I would always just keep my head down, like and on the basketball court, anywhere I went, I would always just keep my head down and just like try not to stand out, but it was just so hard to not stand out because of my skin color. And then as I got into the later years of my professional career, it's something that I've embraced, and I'm like, I should totally love, embrace it, and share it with the world, and be so proud of it, because like there's so many great things about all the different Asian cultures that we could bring to to other people. And I think that's something that I've realized is like, how can I be somebody who is so confident and comfortable with who I am, but I don't have to like go out of my way to force it on anybody. I also don't have to go out of my way to hide it. How can I just be myself, and through the interactions and the relationships that I create, I think other people will kind of learn about me and about Asian culture.
In light of kind of the events that have happened this past year, has your embracing of this identity really been amplified? How do you kind of see your platform as being leveraged to further kind of amplify the Asian American community?
I think Stop Asian Hate, to me, it gave me another level of understanding pain, because I was seeing people that look like my parents. And a lot of community groups have been dealing with a lot of oppression and injustice, but I think after Stop Asian Hate, it gave me a different depth to it. And so how can we build deeper empathy more quickly?
Jeremy, I'm actually a gun high school graduate.
Oh.
So I went to your...
I don't know whether I like you or hate you now. No, my brother went there, so it's cool.
I know. So it almost pains me to admit this, but how much I looked up to you since even your JLS middle school days and then Palo Alto High School, and more seriously, where you have really impacted me personally as a fellow Asian American male, also as an athlete in college, was your sense of confidence in yourself. Your confidence and your growth mindset. Where did that sense of confidence and growth mindset come from?
I think one of the things that people think is athletes are always the most confident and they never struggle with fear. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a huge misconception. Mm-hmm. I think everyone struggles with fear. It's what you do with that fear. Like, do you let that fear to shake you and then to prevent you from going for it? Or does it like absolutely wilt you? Or can you fight through it? And to what degree can you fight through it and manage it? And I think that's why, like, I love the word courage. Is like, courage is not saying that you never feel fear. Maybe courage is that you are fearful, but you still went for it and you still took a step forward. And I think that goes into the growth mindset. There are so many times in my career where I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like a lot of things. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't know why people even supported me. I didn't understand why I had fans. Like, I've gone through every last bit of every question, what if, every doubt. And I think the people around me have continued to instill a resilience, a perseverance, and a courage that despite what your fears are, you can acknowledge them, be okay with them, manage them, and still take one step forward.
On top of your growth on the basketball court, you've also grown a ton outside of the court. One thing I've really also admired about you is your ability to learn. What does lifelong learning look like to you?
Lifelong learning. I mean, that should be like the title of a book or a conference or something. I mean, I think we're always evolving, we're always learning, and I think there's a beauty to it of, like, I don't know who I'm going to be 5 years down the road. I don't know what the world's going to look like 5 years down the road, but just continue to evolve. And I would say, like, lifelong learning to me, some of the principles that I've seen is just, like, don't be the smartest one in the room. I think that's a very simple concept that everybody can relate to. Like, there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter, who have wider perspectives, who are constantly pushing me, and it's almost like and sometimes I don't even want to be pushed, or I don't want to learn about something, but by proximity, by conversation, it's almost like I'm expanding and growing without, even if my heart's not even into it yet. And then if my heart's into it, or I get passionate about it, or whatever, or I pick up a book, then I can really go down that path. And so I think the one thing that I've also realized is there's just so many resources available. I used to be like, oh, there's no way this exists, or the podcasts, the books, the talks, like the conferences, the things available, like the resources, even people to talk to, mentorship, like these things are just, there's so many things out there. And so lifelong learning to me is just something that, like, I just want to keep trying to get better, keep trying to improve. And that's something that's, like, really fun for me if it's a topic I'm interested in at the time.
It seems like you've been expanding a lot of your work outside of just purely basketball. With your foundation and philanthropic work, what are you most excited about, as you're continuing to invest now currently while you're still playing, as well as, in 5 years?
To me, what I'm passionate about is faith and philanthropy, right? Because I think, like, a lot of faith is just loving God and loving others. And if you're actually about loving other people, what would that look like? And so I'm really trying to explore the different elements of love, like, what does love look like? How can we bring love into the world, into different spaces? And so even in social media, right, like cancel culture and certain things, or if you talk about philanthropy, what does true philanthropy look like? How do you really go and make impact, or how would you love a child the way that you would want to be loved if you were that child, or if that was your child, versus a more superficial version of philanthropy, which I'm actually very guilty of. For the first 7 years, I kept saying I wanted to do philanthropy, but then I wasn't willing to do what it really took to make a deep impact. And I had to get called out by people around me. And so as it relates to what I'm going to do down the road, I think it's definitely some level of faith, philanthropy, and sharing the story that I feel like God's given me. But like you said, 5 years, I don't know. It's still evolving. I'm still trying to figure it out, but definitely down that direction.
What are you currently most excited about in your philanthropic work?
So the Jeremy Lin Foundation, we are focused a lot on Asian American youth in the Bay Area, and so we've selected 5 grantees. And all of the grantees are also working with a lot of cross-racial solidarity. And so it's been amazing to see just how much work they're doing at the ground level within these organizations and in these communities. You know, a lot of these kids, they require so many wraparound services, and seeing these grantees willing to do whatever it takes to help.
There's no doubt kind of the barriers that you've already broken. What advice would you give to the next generation of Asian American trailblazers?
Definitely believing in yourself and having that courage to fight through any of the circumstances and the fears that you have. And that should not be a one-man journey. Hopefully you at least have family and friends that if they're not in the industry or they can't help you with your career, they can at least uplift you. And so that's the first thing I would say. I think the second thing I would say is enjoy the journey. I mean, trailblazing is lonely, right? Like, because you're blazing a trail that no one's ever been on. It's lonely and it's hard, and you're always trying to figure out where you need to go. Take time to just pause and enjoy where you're at today. I mean, I'm the most guilty. My biggest regret, probably my biggest regret in life, is my first 5 years in the MBA. I was always focused on where I wanted to go, who I wanted to prove wrong, what I wanted to do, that I never really enjoyed the moment. And then the last one I would say is, while you're blazing a trail, make sure that trail is not just for yourself. Uplift people around you, uplift community, uplift the people that have helped you or the people that will come after you. And I think that's something that's, really special. And I mean, there's a random analogy, but this off season when I went on vacation, I did a lot of hikes. And I realized one person could have came and hiked and they could have just hiked themselves up and hiked down. But actually the reason why I'm there is because a whole group of people went and cleared a whole path. They could have, maybe that one person could have gotten up himself and through, but no, they cleared a path for everybody else after so that it could actually become a hiking trail. Can we blaze trails in a way that the people coming after us will be uplifted and having opportunities as well?
So we're going to close with something hopefully pretty fun for you and the audience.
Cool.
We're going to have a different style of question. I have 4 names prepared, and I'm going to say the name, and I would love for you to react with either a story or a couple sentences of what comes to mind.
Sure.
So the first is Steph Curry.
Humble, authentic, real, he was just a great person.
Right. Next is Kobe Bryant.
The story that I tell is just us. We had a really rough season, but I couldn't sleep. I'd be up at 3:30, 4 a.m. I'd be watching film. Stuff would come to my mind. I remember I was watching, and then I would shoot him a text, and then I would go back to my iPad to watch more film. And before I could even watch a possession, it's oh, he responded, and it was he's up watching film too. It bothered him that we were losing. He was up at 3:34. You could reach him almost at any hour. I'm not saying don't sleep, but I'm just saying that the level of commitment to his craft was amazing.
Right. Our managing partner, her name's Deborah Quazzo. She responds to text in 5 seconds. It sounds like Deborah Quazzo equals Kobe Bryant. The audience will appreciate that. The third is Michael Jordan.
The story that I always relate to is how he got cut. Because I've been cut. I haven't been selected. Growing up, I was never on any of the elite teams. I was never invited to any of the elite camps or tournaments. And so I always would do my book reports on him and do everything. I would study his whole journey. But when he got cut from his high school team, that to me was the one story that gave me inspiration when I was growing up. Of hey, anybody can get cut. It was just about continuing to make sure that you're taking those small steps in the right direction.
Right. Last but not least, we have Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. They're all MVPs of the NBA. But the real MVP, Shirley Lin.
My mom is just somebody who never, has a relentless love for her children and for people. Even now to this day, she's doing tutoring. She tutors for free to help a lot of underprivileged children in Taiwan. And she's not getting paid. She's just doing it out of the bottom of her heart. She's just somebody who loves deeply and is willing to do whatever it takes to help somebody get somewhere. And I think that's a great model for me to have.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming here. We're so happy that you're able to participate in our summit, and you're now part of the ASU+GSV family.
I appreciate it, ASU+GSV. Thanks for having me, and go Pally. I gotta throw that last jab in there, right?